Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Mark Jenkins ran Coffee Corner not for the money, but for the quiet rhythm of it. Each morning, the scent of brewing coffee was a comforting promise, a silent symphony conducted by the hiss of the espresso machine and the gentle clinking of ceramic mugs. He knew his regulars by name, their orders memorized, their moods often mirroring the weather outside the large, sun-drenched windows. Life was predictable, comfortable, and, if he were honest with himself, a little lonely. Chloe, his waitress, was a splash of color in his otherwise monochrome existence. With her bright, ever-changing hair, today it was a vibrant teal, infectious laughter, and a wardrobe that seemed to consist solely of vintage dresses and combat boots, she was the shop's resident ray of sunshine. Chloe had been with Mark for 2 years, and in that time, she'd become more than just an employee. She was his confidant, his sounding board, and the only person who could convince him to try new things, usually involving questionable food combinations. The bell above the door jingled, announcing a new arrival. Mark glanced up, ready with his practiced greeting, but the words caught in his throat. Standing in the doorway was a woman unlike anyone he had ever seen. She was tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, were the color of amethyst, and her silver hair cascaded down her back like liquid moonlight. She wore a simple, elegant dress of a fabric that Mark couldn't identify, and an aura of otherworldly grace surrounded her. Chloe, ever the pragmatist, recovered first. "Welcome to Coffee Corner. Find a seat, and I'll be right with you." The woman glided to an empty table near the window, her movements fluid and silent. Mark watched her, mesmerized, as Chloe approached with a notepad and pen. He could hear their hushed conversation, though he couldn't make out the words. A few minutes later, Chloe approached the counter, her eyebrows raised in a mixture of confusion and amusement. "Mark, she's different," Chloe whispered, leaning in close. "She doesn't seem to know what anything is. I tried to explain the menu, but she just stared at me with those big eyes." "What does she want?" Mark asked, still struggling to process the woman's presence. "She said, and I quote, 'I wish to experience the substance you call chocolate.'" Chloe giggled. "Of all the things to want on earth, she asks for chocolate." Mark chuckled, shaking his head. "Well, we can certainly help her with that. Get her the dark chocolate truffle. It's the most intense we have." Chloe grinned. "Consider it done." As Chloe prepared the truffle, Mark watched the woman, Alina, as she sat by the window, gazing out at the bustling street with a look of childlike wonder. He couldn't help but feel a surge of curiosity. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why chocolate? Chloe placed the truffle in front of Alina, who regarded it with a mixture of apprehension and fascination. "This is chocolate," Chloe announced with a flourish. "Enjoy." Alina picked up the truffle delicately, as if it might shatter in her hands. She brought it to her nose, inhaling deeply. Her eyes widened. "The aroma, it is complex." With a hesitant movement, she took a small bite. Her eyes closed, and a soft moan escaped her lips. Mark and Chloe exchanged nervous glances. Alina's reaction was far more intense than they had anticipated. "This," Alina began, her voice trembling slightly. "This is extraordinary." She devoured the rest of the truffle in a few bites, her expression shifting from pleasure to something akin to ecstasy. When she was finished, she opened her eyes, and Mark felt a jolt of electricity pass through him. Her amethyst eyes seemed to glow brighter, and her skin shimmered with an even more intense light. I must have more," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Chloe, always quick on her feet, grabbed another truffle. "Here you go. Easy does it, though. It's pretty potent stuff." Alina consumed the second truffle with the same fervor as the first, her reactions even more pronounced. She began to laugh, a pure, melodic sound that filled the coffee shop. Then, just as suddenly, she began to cry, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand, she sobbed, her voice filled with confusion. Why am I feeling so much? Mark and Chloe rushed to her side, unsure of what to do. It's okay, Mark said, patting her hand awkwardly. It's just the chocolate. It can be overwhelming. Overwhelming? Alina repeated, her eyes wide with wonder. It is like a symphony of emotions. Joy, sorrow, longing, all at once. Chloe grabbed a napkin and gently dabbed at Alina's tears. Maybe you should slow down. It might be too much for you all at once. Alina shook her head, a determined look on her face. No. I want to understand. I want to feel everything. Over the next hour, Alina proceeded to sample every chocolate item on the menu, from the rich chocolate cake to the decadent hot chocolate. Each bite brought a new wave of emotions, a new burst of laughter and tears. Mark and Chloe watched in amazement, trying to make sense of what was happening. As the coffee shop emptied for the evening, Alina finally began to calm down. The light in her eyes softened, and her skin returned to its normal shimmer. She looked at Mark and Chloe, her expression filled with gratitude. Thank you, she said, her voice soft and sincere. You have shown me something profound. Chocolate, it is more than just a substance. It is a key to understanding the human experience. Mark chuckled. I never thought of it that way. Neither did I, Chloe added, grinning. But I guess everything is different when you're an alien. Alina smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile. I am Alina, by the way. And I am grateful for your kindness. I'm Mark, and this is Chloe, Mark replied, extending his hand. Alina shook his hand, her touch surprisingly warm and firm. It is a pleasure to meet you both. As they cleaned up the coffee shop, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. Alina's arrival had brought a spark of the extraordinary into his ordinary world. He glanced at Chloe, who was humming happily as she wiped down the tables. He knew that she felt it too. So, Chloe said, breaking the silence. What do we do with an alien who's addicted to chocolate? Mark smiled. I guess we keep feeding her chocolate. And maybe, just maybe, we learn something about ourselves along the way. The night ended with Mark offering Alina a place to stay in the spare room above the coffee shop. As Alina settled in, she looked out at the city lights, a sense of wonder filling her. Earth, she realized, was far more complex and fascinating than she had ever imagined. And it all started with a single bite of chocolate. The days that followed Alina's arrival were a whirlwind of new experiences and adjustments. She quickly adapted to life at Coffee Corner, learning the intricacies of the espresso machine and the preferences of the regulars. Her otherworldly charm and genuine curiosity made her an instant hit with the customers, and the coffee shop became even more popular than before. Alina's fascination with chocolate remained undiminished. She experimented with different varieties, savoring each bite with the intensity of a connoisseur. Mark and Chloe learned to anticipate her cravings, always keeping a stash of her favorite dark chocolate truffles on hand. One afternoon, a new face entered the coffee shop. David, a local artist known for his vibrant portraits and evocative landscapes, was immediately captivated by Alina. He sat at a table near the window, sketching furiously in his notebook, his eyes never leaving her. David was a man of intense passions, his life consumed by his art. He saw beauty in everything, from the mundane to the extraordinary, and he had a gift for capturing the essence of his subjects on canvas. But he had never encountered anyone quite like Alina. Her ethereal beauty, her otherworldly grace, and the strange, intense emotions that flickered across her face fascinated him. After a few hours of sketching, David approached Alina, his eyes shining with excitement. "Excuse me," he said, his voice slightly breathless. "I couldn't help but notice you. You're extraordinary. Alina smiled, her amethyst eyes twinkling. Thank you. I am Alina. I'm David. I'm an artist, and I was wondering if you would consider sitting for a portrait. I know it's a strange request, but I feel like I need to capture your essence on canvas. You're like something out of a dream. Alina hesitated. She had never posed for a portrait before, and the idea made her feel slightly uncomfortable. But David's enthusiasm was infectious, and she was intrigued by the prospect of being immortalized in art. I don't know, she said, her voice uncertain. I've never done anything like this before. Please, David pleaded, his eyes filled with hope. It would mean the world to me. I promise I'll make it worth your while. I'll even pay you in chocolate. Alina laughed, her hesitation melting away. In that case, how can I refuse? And so, Alina agreed to sit for David's portrait. For the next few days, she spent hours in his studio, posing patiently as he worked tirelessly, capturing her likeness on canvas. Chloe, meanwhile, watched the burgeoning friendship between Alina and David with a mixture of amusement and concern. She had grown close to Alina in the weeks since her arrival, and she felt protective of her. She couldn't shake the feeling that David's interest in Alina was more than just artistic. Are you sure you're okay with this, Alina? Chloe asked one evening, as they were closing up the coffee shop. David seems intense. Alina shrugged. He's just an artist, Chloe. He sees the world differently than we do. And besides, I enjoy spending time with him. He's fascinating. I just don't want you to get hurt, Chloe said, her voice filled with concern. Alina smiled and placed a hand on Chloe's arm. I appreciate your concern, but I can take care of myself. Besides, I have you and Mark to look out for me, right? Chloe smiled back, her worries slightly assuaged. Of course. We'll always be here for you. As David's portrait progressed, Alina began to experience a range of new emotions. She found herself drawn to David's passion and creativity, and she enjoyed their conversations about art, life, and the universe. But she also sensed a growing obsession in David's gaze, a possessiveness that made her feel uneasy. One afternoon, as they were taking a break from painting, David turned to Alina, his eyes filled with longing. Alina, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I think I'm falling in love with you. Alina's heart skipped a beat. She had never experienced romantic love before, and the intensity of David's declaration took her by surprise. She was drawn to him, yes, but she wasn't sure if she felt the same way. David, she said, her voice uncertain. I don't know what to say. I care about you, but... David reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her body. Please, Alina, he pleaded. Give me a chance. I know we're different, but I believe we can make it work. Alina looked into David's eyes, and she saw a deep well of emotion. She wanted to believe him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship was doomed to failure. They were from different worlds, with different values and different expectations. I need time to think, she said, pulling her hand away. This is all happening too fast. David nodded, his expression crestfallen. I understand. But please, don't shut me out completely. Over the next few days, Alina struggled with her feelings for David. She was torn between her desire for connection and her fear of commitment. She confided in Mark and Chloe, seeking their advice and guidance. You have to do what feels right for you, Alina, Mark said, his voice gentle and supportive. Don't let anyone pressure you into anything you're not comfortable with. And don't be afraid to break his heart if that's what it comes down to, Chloe added, her tone more pragmatic. It's better to be honest than to lead him on. Alina took their words to heart, and she decided to have an honest conversation with David. She met him in his studio, her heart pounding in her chest. David, she began, her voice firm but gentle. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've realized that we can't be together. I care about you, but I don't love you the way you love me. And it's not fair to you to pretend otherwise. David's face fell, his eyes filled with pain. I knew it, he said, his voice hoarse. I knew it was too good to be true. It's not about you, Alina said, reaching out to take his hand. It's about me. I'm not ready for a relationship like this. I'm still trying to figure out who I am and what I want. David pulled his hand away, his expression hardening. So that's it? You're just going to walk away? I'm sorry, Alina said, her voice trembling. I wish things could be different. With that, she turned and walked out of the studio, leaving David alone with his broken heart. As she walked back to Coffee Corner, Alina couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. She had made the right decision, even though it was a difficult one. She knew that she needed to focus on herself and her own journey, and she couldn't do that in a romantic relationship. When she arrived at the coffee shop, she found Chloe waiting for her, her expression filled with concern. How did it go? Chloe asked, her voice soft. Alina sighed. It was hard. But I think I made the right decision. Chloe wrapped her arms around Alina, her embrace warm and comforting. I'm proud of you, she said. You did what you had to do. As they stood there, hugging in the doorway of Coffee Corner, Alina realized that she was surrounded by love and support. She might not have found romantic love with David, but she had found something even more valuable, true friendship. And that, she knew, was something worth cherishing. Weeks turned into months, and Alina settled into a comfortable routine at Coffee Corner. She was no longer the wide-eyed stranger who had stumbled into Mark's life. She was now an integral part of the community, a beloved friend and confidant to many. Her unique perspective and gentle nature made her a source of wisdom and comfort to those who sought her out. However, Alina's existence had not gone unnoticed by everyone. Dr. Ben Carter, a scientist with a penchant for the unusual, had been tracking reports of strange phenomena in the area, including whispers of a glowing waitress at a local coffee shop. Ben was a man driven by curiosity, his life dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of the universe. He had a reputation for being eccentric, often pursuing unconventional theories and methods in his research. One crisp autumn morning, Ben walked into Coffee Corner, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on Alina. He approached her cautiously, his expression a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Excuse me," he said, his voice slightly hesitant. "Are you Alina?" Alina smiled, her amethyst eyes twinkling. "I am." "And you are?" "Dr. Ben Carter," he replied, extending his hand. "I'm a scientist. I've been following your story." Alina raised an eyebrow, a hint of suspicion in her gaze. "Following my story? What do you mean?" Ben cleared his throat, his nervousness evident. "I've heard rumors about your unique physiology and your affinity for chocolate." Alina's expression hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice cool. "I'm just a waitress." Ben sighed. "Please, Alina. I don't mean any harm. I'm just curious. I believe you could hold the key to understanding something profound about the universe." Mark, who had been watching the exchange from behind the counter, approached them, his expression wary. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his voice firm. Ben turned to Mark, his eyes pleading. "I just want to talk to Alina. I believe she has information that could be invaluable to my research." Mark glared at Ben. "I don't think so. Alina doesn't owe you anything. And I don't appreciate you harassing her in my coffee shop." Alina placed a hand on Mark's arm, her touch calming him. "It's okay, Mark. I'll talk to him." Mark hesitated, but he relented, stepping back and allowing Alina to speak with Ben. "What do you want to know?" Alina asked, turning back to Ben. Ben's face lit up with excitement. "Everything," he said, his voice eager. "I want to understand your origins, your powers, your connection to chocolate. I want to study you, Alina. For science." Alina recoiled, her expression filled with disgust. "Study me? Like I'm some kind of lab rat? I don't think so." "Please, Alina," Ben pleaded. "It's not like that. I would never do anything to harm you. I just want to learn from you." Alina considered Ben's words carefully. She was wary of his motives, but she also recognized his genuine curiosity. And she couldn't deny that she was intrigued by the prospect of understanding her own physiology. "I'll think about it," she said, her voice noncommittal. "But I'm not making any promises." Ben's face lit up with hope. "Thank you, Alina. That's all I ask." Over the next few days, Ben continued to visit Coffee Corner, engaging Alina in conversations about science, philosophy, and the nature of reality. He shared his theories and his research, and he listened intently as Alina spoke about her experiences and her understanding of the universe. Alina found herself drawn to Ben's intellect and his passion for knowledge. She admired his willingness to question conventional wisdom and to explore the unknown. But she also remained cautious, aware of his desire to study her and the potential risks that could entail. One evening, as they were closing up the coffee shop, Alina turned to Mark, her expression troubled. "What do you think of Ben?" she asked. Mark sighed. "I don't know, Alina. He seems harmless enough. But I still don't trust him completely. I'm worried he's going to try to take advantage of you." "I know," Alina said. "But I also think he might be onto something. I can feel it. There's something important about my connection to chocolate, something that I need to understand." Mark placed a hand on Alina's shoulder, his expression filled with concern. "Just be careful, Alina. Don't let him manipulate you. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, you know you can always come to me." Alina smiled, her heart warmed by Mark's concern. "I know, Mark. Thank you." After much deliberation, Alina decided to allow Ben to conduct a series of non-invasive tests to study her physiology and her reaction to chocolate. She set strict boundaries, insisting that she would have complete control over the process and that she could stop at any time. Ben agreed to her terms, his excitement barely contained. He set up a makeshift lab in his apartment, filling it with equipment and instruments. Over the next few weeks, Alina underwent a series of tests, allowing Ben to monitor her brain activity, her heart rate, and her hormonal responses as she consumed various types of chocolate. The results were astonishing. Ben discovered that Alina's brain processed chocolate in a completely different way than a human brain. Her neural pathways lit up like a Christmas tree, and she experienced a flood of neurotransmitters that were far more intense than anything he had ever seen. He also discovered that Alina's connection to chocolate was not just physical, but also emotional and spiritual. The chocolate seemed to unlock her memories, her emotions, and her connection to her home world. As Ben delved deeper into his research, he began to realize the profound implications of his findings. Alina was not just an alien, she was a living embodiment of the universe's interconnectedness. And chocolate was not just a food, it was a key to unlocking the secrets of consciousness and the nature of reality. Ben knew that he had stumbled upon something extraordinary, something that could change the world forever. But he also knew that he had a responsibility to protect Alina and to ensure that his research was used for good. He decided to share his findings with Alina, revealing the full extent of his discoveries. He showed her the data, the charts, and the brain scans, explaining in detail how her physiology and her connection to chocolate were unlike anything he had ever seen. Alina listened intently, her expression a mixture of awe and apprehension. She realized that she was not just a waitress in a coffee shop, she was a key to understanding the universe. "What do we do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ben looked at Alina, his eyes filled with determination. We share this with the world, he said. We show them the power of chocolate and the interconnectedness of all things. We use this knowledge to heal the planet and to bring about a new era of peace and understanding. Alina smiled, her heart filled with hope. I'm ready, she said. Let's do it. As word of Alina's unique abilities and Ben's research spread through the small town, it inevitably caught the attention of Olivia Harding, a tenacious and ambitious journalist for the local newspaper. Olivia was known for her sharp wit, her relentless pursuit of the truth, and her ability to sniff out a story where others saw nothing. Olivia had been feeling restless lately, her career stagnating with mundane assignments and local gossip. She craved a story that would make headlines, a story that would catapult her to national recognition. And when she heard whispers of an alien waitress, with a mysterious connection to chocolate, she knew she had found her ticket to success. Olivia approached Coffee Corner with a mix of excitement and skepticism. She had a hard time believing the rumors, but she couldn't deny the strange occurrences that had been reported in the area. And she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how bizarre it might be. She walked into the coffee shop, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Alina. Olivia was immediately struck by her ethereal beauty and her otherworldly presence. She knew that she was dealing with something extraordinary. Olivia approached Alina, her notepad and pen in hand. "Excuse me," she said, her voice smooth and professional. "Are you Alina?" Alina smiled, her amethyst eyes twinkling. "I am." "And you are?" "Olivia Harding," she replied, extending her hand. "I'm a journalist for the local newspaper. I'm writing a story about Coffee Corner, and I was hoping I could ask you a few questions." Alina hesitated, her expression wary. She had always been cautious of the media, knowing that they could distort the truth and exploit her story for their own gain. "I don't know," she said, her voice hesitant. "I'm not sure I want to be in the newspaper." Olivia pressed on, her determination unwavering. "Please, Alina. It's a positive story. I just want to share your experience with the world. I want to show people how you've brought joy and inspiration to our community." Alina considered Olivia's words carefully. She knew that she couldn't hide forever. And she also knew that her story had the potential to inspire others and to promote understanding and acceptance. "Okay," she said, relenting. "I'll answer a few questions. But I have the right to end the interview at any time." Olivia smiled, her excitement barely contained. "Thank you, Alina. I appreciate it." Over the next few hours, Olivia grilled Alina with questions about her origins, her powers, her connection to chocolate, and her experiences on Earth. She probed her about her relationships with Mark and Chloe, and she pressed her for details about her research with Ben. Alina answered Olivia's questions honestly, but she also held back certain information, wary of revealing too much too soon. She knew that Olivia was a skilled journalist, and she didn't want to give her anything that could be used against her. Chloe, meanwhile, watched the interview with growing unease. She had a bad feeling about Olivia, sensing that she was more interested in sensationalizing Alina's story than in telling the truth. "Are you sure you know what you're doing, Alina?" Chloe asked one evening, as they were closing up the coffee shop. "Olivia seems pushy." Alina sighed. "I know, Chloe. But I can't hide forever. And maybe it's time for the world to know the truth." "I just don't want you to get hurt," Chloe said, her voice filled with concern. "Olivia is a shark. She'll do anything to get a story." Alina smiled, her heart warmed by Chloe's concern. "I appreciate your worry, but I can handle myself. Besides, I have you and Mark to look out for me, right?" Chloe smiled back, her worries slightly assuaged. "Of course. We'll always be here for you." As Olivia continued to investigate Alina's story, she began to uncover a web of secrets and hidden agendas. She learned about Ben's unorthodox research methods and his obsession with chocolate. She discovered that a shadowy corporation was monitoring Alina's activities, interested in exploiting her unique abilities for their own gain. Olivia knew that she was onto something big, something that could expose a conspiracy that reached far beyond the small town. She decided to publish her story, even if it meant risking her career and her safety. The article appeared on the front page of the local newspaper.